Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview covering VCT America Stage 2. For this occasion, I'm here accompanied by Foe, the assistant coach of Evil Geniuses, who are coming off of a 2-0 series loss to MIBR at the end of their year. And so, Foe, really do appreciate you taking the time. Pleasure to talk to you for the first time also for this season. Unfortunate that it's coming at the very end of the team's season, not making playoffs, but still, just want to ask you, coming off of a series like that, against MIBR, what's your emotion like? What's your headspace like right now?
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you just gotta laugh it off. I mean, not much else to be done. It's a tough series. It's a tough series to handle, but I mean, they were shooting today. They were just on one, and we weren't playing, up to our greatest game. But I mean, when you have a loss like that, there's nothing to do. You can't really dwell on it. You just have to laugh it off and go next.
I was gonna ask about just that. MIBR originally a winless team, coming into coming into today. I mean, to see them, just play so well and just put up things, that kind of threw you guys off. My assumption, of course, did you kind of did you not anticipate for that team to do well today?
I mean, they played above the level they've been playing at for sure. They definitely leveled up going into the last week. I mean, they did a lot better today. They had crazy shots. They were just on point, in all regards. So I mean, I wouldn't say we didn't anticipate it because I mean, I think especially when you have a team that is looking for their first win, it's the last match of the season. I mean, we knew that they would come in and they don't want to go 0-10, right? Like that they definitely don't want to do that. So I think we were ready for them to come out and be swinging. We just I mean, I don't want to say we got caught off guard because I know we definitely didn't. They definitely just outplayed us in that moment.
I understand. I want to ask you about just sort of getting into the game now. Your point of view on just what was it like, facing off against, their interesting double sentinel comp. And I asked John Jamal about it, and he did talk about a little bit about the team had struggles just dealing with MIBR's like entries or just sort of setup plays during that map. From your point of view, what was the most difficult aspect in terms of just facing that composition from your eyes?
Yeah, I think it's giving up first bloods because the moment you start giving up first bloods to that comp, it just snowballs really hard, right? And we were getting first blooded a ton, whether it was from a trap or from just an initial duel, a push. There was like a couple of rounds where someone did a random push. There was like a raise push on short A. I think Paulo pushed short once, got his one, and that just makes the round really hard, right? Like versus that double sentinel. The moment you start to lose numbers and you go into those lower number situations, it's hard to claw back into the round, and I think that really is what lost us bind. Is just not being able to convert first, whether we were losing to a set play or a push or whatever in that moment.
Yeah, it definitely was hard to just kind of absorb that result and move on to the next one, which was Lotus. I mean, to go from that to then, what led to just the team not performing to the usual level in that map? What do you think went wrong there?
Yeah, I think Lotus was like we'll call it like a Valorant experience where, sometimes like things aren't going your way. And when things aren't going your way, you have to find ways to, claw back into it. And I think in that moment, they were just pressing the issue really well. We weren't able to claw ourselves back into it. They had a couple of, set pieces that were really good. For example, the one way on B site that stopped our flood from the door. That was killing us on the B retakes. We weren't really able to get in and set up anything on B. So that was making all of those rounds super difficult. And then when you have something like that, where a couple of rounds where they're outplaying you, they have those strategic moments where they're taking advantage of what you're doing. And then on top of that, you've already had a couple of, let's call them unlucky rounds where they outshot us really heavily. We didn't necessarily lose on macro, but we lost the round anyway, and it just snowballs really hard. That's my Valorant experience.
I was about to ask by that. I was just about to ask that, with that term snowball, it just really did feel like everything started going wrong for you guys. Well, in contrast, everything was just going right for MIBR, right? It was just a matter of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
it feels a lot like that, and that's to be expected whenever you have a couple of rounds early that you should, maybe have had a better shot at, but something that happened in those rounds just, it's unlucky, it's random or whatever. Not to take away from, what they did. They played a really good game. But when you have that early on in the half and there's a couple of rounds like that, and the rounds where they do truly outplay you super heavily, it just compounds really hard.
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask about how, you know, due to the fact that as a result of losing 200 thieves, you guys were already out coming into today. I mean, how difficult was it, if any, for you guys to kind of try to remain focused while also, while also having that thought in mind? Was there any difficulty in that? And if so, in what fashion?
I don't think so. I mean, we practiced just as hard this week as as we would any other week. Everything went as normal. We prepared the same way we prepare for every match. I think the mentality was the same too. I think everyone, we really did want to win this match because everyone knows that we don't want to go out with a bad showing. Like we want to have a good showing for our last, match of the season. And, I think we tried just as hard here as we would have in any other match. And I think in reality, like I said, they played a good game. They played above the level they've been playing definitely for what I think they played this year. MIBR. I think they played really well today comparative to how they've been playing for sure. I don't think we were on our game either, to be honest. Though I think we were just flat a little bit, and I don't really have like a thing to blame that on. I think just in general we just didn't bring the 100% game today.
I understand that. And as I said at the start of this conversation, um, with this result already into the year, or the year is now over for EG, and also in addition to that for yourself, Fo. That said, I want to now ask about your reflection from your point of view, given that I believe this was your first season being a coach for a tier one team, being able to experience all of this stuff. Just sort of what's been your biggest takeaway, just having to be part of EG, try to help them improve to the point where you guys could contend for a spot in any of the Masters slash Champions events for this year. What do you think has been the biggest takeaway for you?
Yeah, I think regardless of what results look like, we were always so much closer than I think it feels for everybody involved, right? Like we were one match away from making Madrid. We lost the loud game, which realistically we were one map away, if anything, because we had one map won in that series. We were so close. And at that point I think our problem was like how to close rounds out in those in those high pressure situations. And that was sort of what we had to work on throughout the year, right? And that's what we were improving at from then on. And I think it was still overall I'm happy with the ability for us to progress throughout the year because we started off 0-3 and brought back what was a very like what felt like to some teams, they could have probably been in what they felt like was a hopeless spot. And we brought it back and we're almost in contention for both playoffs, right? We were a tiebreaker away from the first playoffs, split one, and this we were one match away. We just had to win the 100 Thieves match, or we could have won any of the other matches throughout the season, right? So I mean, one match off is it is what it is. I think we did a little bit better than the results might seem like to anyone who's involved with it. I know the guys are probably going to be harsh about it to themselves, right? Naturally, as competitors are, right? But my takeaway is that we were so close to doing something really great, and I think that just with a little bit more work, the guys are there.
What do you think was one thing that the team could have done differently to just fill that gap and then reach that Masters and then Champions? What do you think kind of separated you guys from reaching that desired goal?
I really think it was just a matter of getting that stage experience, which isn't something that, we can do without having played, right? And I think that season it's kind of short, right? You have to perform, in these, high pressure situations and you don't get many opportunities, right? So it's really hard. You have to learn to grow very fast over the course of the season. And I think with more stage experience, this team would be very good. And then this team can sort of, reach its potential over that time. But like I said, with the season structure, it's hard when you only play 10 games right in a season. There's just not a lot of opportunity to grow. And I think obviously our split two went a lot better than our split one, and I think it shows that we've had a lot of growth over the year. It's just a matter of what can you do with that over time.
I now want to ask about just your experience working under Potter, because of course, coming into this year, she was reigning, defending champions, world champion coach. I mean, what was that experience like just for you? Having to learn under her. Everything was the biggest part, just of you having to work under her. Biggest thing that you learned also, just from that entire experience.
Yeah, so I think in 2021 to 2022, I was playing under Potter on that original EG lineup that had first made a VCT event, and it was very similar to how it is how her system is now. Her system's evolved over time. It was very similar, but I got to see like what the system looks like after after a lot of refinement went through it. Obviously, the all of last year there was a ton that she was working on to get them to champions and to win champions. And I definitely learned a lot, and especially being able to compare the two experiences and understanding like where we were at back then, and where this team got to now. It's very helpful for me to understand like how what is helpful for people to progress, what's helpful for the team to progress, and like how to structure roles. Especially, I think that's developed really well over time. In her system is like everyone having their job and like how do you structure people's jobs and what are everyone's jobs. I think that ended up being one of the biggest takeaways I had this year. So it was very helpful for me to learn that kind of stuff.
Is there's one memory that you feel you will remember, most fondly or most memorable? What would that one thing be for you?
One thing most memorable. Wow. Um, I've had so many good memories with the squad. We've had a lot of good times. I will say, um, I think in terms of like VCT events, I think being in the kickoff match where we were up against Loud, we had just won map one, and that feeling of like, wow, we can do it. Like this is the moment where we can do it. That is like in terms of being at an event and feeling that moment. That was the point where it was like you can taste going to an international event, competing on that stage. And I think that's probably one of the most memorable things for me because, as a competitor, like you're always going to be fueled by like the carrot on a stick where you want to do better and better, right? And that was the moment where like first saw that opportunity to do something great. So I think that'll stick with me for a while from this season.
For sure. Fo, really do appreciate you taking the time once again for doing this interview. Unfortunate that it's happening at the end of the year, such is the case, but still really do appreciate it. One more thing to ask. Do you got any final words? Because I got no more questions. So you got any final words to share to anyone?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. Yeah, it is late. Our season's over at this point, so I guess last farewell in that regard. But honestly, thanks to all the fans. I we do a meet and greet after every single event, and it feels great to just see how many people come out and support us, and even just like playing the game. And I'll be playing a TDM or something, and people just give us support, and I really appreciate it. I think everyone's been super super heartwarming towards us, and I'm sorry we couldn't deliver going to playoffs. I mean, it sucks for us. I mean, we obviously wanted to be a champions really bad, but also for the fans. I'm sorry we can't be a champions to represent NA, and that was our initial goal at the beginning of the year. It sucks to fall short, but thanks for keeping the support.
Sure, Fo. Thank you so much for doing this interview real quick. Once again, I really do appreciate it, and best of luck to you in the future, wherever you may go and wherever you may land, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and well, hopefully I'll see you next year.
All right, thank you so much, Fo. Really do appreciate it. Have a good night.
Bye.